Millions saw a video that made their hearts race. A giant Navy ship shot sideways into a river with a huge splash, and the world thought it was a new aircraft carrier. But it wasn't. It was something even more intense. This 3,500-ton ship was built in Wisconsin, where the river is too narrow for normal launches. So engineers sent it down greased wooden tracks, letting gravity pull it sideways into the water all at once. When the hull hits, it rolls hard to one side. It leans so far you think it will tip over, and the crowd gasps in fear. Metal creaks, water explodes, and for 1 second, it seems the ship won't survive. This moment harms the ship more than any storm or battle ever will. If the math is wrong, the ship could flip in front of everyone. Engineers have just 3 seconds between release and ruin. Stay until the end, because what happens in the final second is the secret no one saw coming. Before the big splash, everything is quiet. A huge gray ship sits above the river on greased wooden tracks. It looks like a sleeping giant, and the crowd watches in silence. People feel nervous but don't know why. They hold up phones, ready to record something rare. Even the builders stand still. This moment can go very wrong. This ship weighs 3,500 tons, like 700 elephants. It won't float out slowly. It will drop hard into the water. Big carriers don't do this. Only ships like this one must. Imagine rolling a car off a cliff and hoping it lands standing up. But this car costs $400 million, and it's a real Navy warship. The river is too narrow for a normal launch. The banks are too close, so the Navy has no choice. This isn't for show. It's the only way to get the ship in the water. So why did so many think this was a new aircraft carrier? Why did the video go viral? Even experts were fooled, and it started with one small mix-up. When the video hit the internet, people believed it fast. Captions said, "New U.S. aircraft carrier launch. The huge splash, the giant hull, the wild crash." It all looked real. In hours, millions shared it. Sure, they saw a 100,000-ton supercarrier. Viewers couldn't believe their eyes. Comments poured in. "This is insane. How is that possible? The Navy is next level." It wasn't just amazement. It was shock and wonder. But here's the truth. Real carriers never launch like this. Ships like the USS Ford float out slowly in giant dry docks. No crash, no drama. This video was so wild, so loud that facts didn't matter. It's like seeing a stunt double jump off a roof and thinking it's the real movie star. Even smart experts got fooled by the power of the scene. The Navy didn't correct them, because the real story was even cooler. This wasn't a carrier. It was a smaller warship built in a landlocked factory, and the river was too tight for a normal launch, so they had to drop it sideways. So why is this river so tricky? Why couldn't they just float the ship out like everyone else? The answer is in the narrow water, where shipbuilding became a risky game. The Menominee River is not a big Navy port. It's a tight river in Wisconsin, squeezed by banks on both sides. There's no room for a normal ship launch, but this is where the Navy builds top warships. For engineers, this place is a gift and a curse. The factory is world-class, but the river gives no second chances. Every launch is a battle between steel, water, and gravity. Big ships usually slide out bow first down long, open channels. But here, the river is too narrow, so they can't do that. Instead, they use a sideways drop. An old, rough method called lateral gravity launch. Think of it like parking a huge truck in a tiny car spot. You can't go straight in, so you slide in sideways fast and hope it works. But this truck weighs 3,500 tons, and it costs $400 million. The scariest part? They don't lower it slowly. They just let go. Once the ropes drop, gravity takes over, and no one can stop it. So how do they make it safe? How can they trust such a violent drop with a warship this expensive? The secret is in a launch system that looks crazy, but every number is perfect. The ship sits on wooden rails called ways, coated in thick grease. These logs slope down to the river at a perfect angle, ready to let the ship slide fast. This method is old, but engineers trust it, even though it looks risky. Right before launch, the air feels tense. Engineers check every number, every grease spot, every bolt. If one thing is wrong, the ship could slide too fast, too slow, or hit the bank. The grease weighs hundreds of pounds and must be smooth all over. The wooden slope can't be too steep, or the ship flies out of control. It can't be too flat, or the ship gets stuck halfway. Computers test every millisecond of the drop before they even start. It's like a giant water slide. But the Rider is a 3,500-ton warship. There's no lifeguard, no brakes, and no do-overs. You grease it, aim it, let go, and hope physics works perfectly. But the real danger isn't the slide. It's the crash into the water. That's when the ship stops being metal on wood and becomes a falling giant fighting to stay upright. So what does it sound like when 3,500 tons break free? What do engineers hear in that last second before splash? It's a noise so deep and sudden, even old Navy veterans hold their breath. A voice counts down over loudspeakers. 3, 2, 1. Then, a loud crack. The ropes snap and the ship moves. It starts slow, then races faster down the greased wooden rails. The crowd freezes. Hands lift phones higher. Breath stops in chests. Everything happens so fast, your eyes can't keep up. The 3,500-ton hull picks up speed like a train with no brakes. Wood creaks, grease sizzles, metal hums as it hurtles toward the river. It looks like a building falling, but it's not slow. It's terrifyingly fast. Your brain thinks it's graceful, but the truth is brutal and loud. This isn't a gentle float. It's a warship charging into the water. The river doesn't welcome it. It gets smashed by it. And in that instant, the splash becomes legend. So what happens when all that steel hits sideways? How high does the water fly? The answer created the most watched ship launch ever. A wall of water so huge, it looks like a tidal wave. The moment the hull hits, the river explodes. A wall of white water shoots up, taller than the pier, wider than the ship. It sounds like a bomb, a deep boom that echoes off the hills. People in the crowd scream. Some jump back, even though they're safe on land. For 1 second, it feels like the river is fighting back. The splash is so huge, waves shake boats hundreds of feet away. Engineers call this hydrodynamic shock. When all that speed turns into water violence. Even giant aircraft carriers never make a splash like this because they float out gently. It's like a cannonball, but the ball is as big as a football field. The water can't go down, so it flies straight up. It looks like a movie effect, but it's all real. No CGI, no tricks. But the splash isn't the scary part. The real fear starts when the water settles, because then the ship rolls, and that roll looks like it might never stop. So how far does it tilt before coming back upright? At what angle do people start to think it will flip? The truth is, it leans closer to disaster than you'd ever believe. As the ship hits the water, it doesn't stop moving. It leans hard to one side, not slow, but sudden and violent. The deck tilts, the mast slants, and the river climbs up the hull. This is the scariest second of all. Your stomach drops just watching it. The ship looks like it will flip over and stay upside down. Even engineers who trust the math hold their breath. It can roll 20 to 30 degrees, like a car on a steep hill. Loose tools would slide off if there were any on deck. Water rushes into hidden spaces, shifting the ship's balance fast. This is the riskiest moment, where plans meet real water. Think of standing on a wobbly raft as it tips under you. You lean, lean, not sure if you'll stand or fall. The ship does the same, but it weighs 3,500 tons and can't grab the edge. Just when it seems doomed, something unseen takes over. No ropes pull it, no engines fire, yet it starts to come back. So what saves it from flipping? What hidden force stops disaster in less than a second? The answer is a secret of physics, and it's why this launch works at all. The ship lives because of one secret, the righting moment. It's a force built into the hull by smart design and weight placement. When the ship tilts, water pushes up on the low side, and gravity pulls down on the high side. Together, they twist the ship back upright, like an invisible hand. No one sees the math, but everyone sees the miracle. The ship groans, shakes hard, then slowly stands tall again. It feels impossible, but every number was planned. Naval architects spend months testing this exact second on computers. They shape the hull, place heavy metal low, and pick steel thickness just right, all to make sure the righting force wins over the flip force. Get it wrong, and the ship sinks on camera. A $400 million loss. It works like a self-standing toy you can't knock over. Push it down. It wobbles, then stands up again. But this toy weighs 3,500 tons and lives or dies by design. Still, the danger isn't over. After it rights itself, the ship rocks back and forth hard. It slams from side to side, spraying more water, shaking like it's fighting. But this isn't a mistake. It's a test on purpose. So why does the Navy let it rock so violently? What good comes from this chaos? The answer shows why this scary moment is actually the ship's biggest test of strength. Right after the ship rights itself, it doesn't stop moving. It rocks hard left, then right, back and forth like a pendulum. The swings look wild, loud, and totally out of control, but engineers planned every second. To the crowd, it still seems dangerous. Each tilt feels like the ship will finally flip. But to the Navy, this is victory. Proof the hull can take real war damage. This rocking is the toughest test the ship will ever face. It's rougher than hurricane waves, faster than battle turns, harder than any crash at sea. If the hull survives this, it can survive anything for the next 30 years. Think of throwing a car off a cliff to see if it still runs. If it does, you know it's strong. This launches that test, but for a $400 million warship. The beautiful truth, what looks like chaos is actually perfect control. Every shake, every groan, every scary lean, planned down to the degree. So how can something this violent be the Navy's safest launch method? The final answer shows the genius hidden inside the madness. After the wild rocking, the ship slows down. It floats calmly in the river as if nothing happened. The crowd cheers, phones still rolling, as the warship drifts toward the dock. Relief washes over the entire shipyard. What looked like disaster was always under control. Engineers knew the numbers, but watching it live still takes their breath away. This sideways launch isn't crazy. It's a trusted method over 100 years old. Every Menominee River launch has worked, not by luck, but by perfect planning. They check grease thickness, river temperature, even the wind. Nothing is guessed. It's like a tightrope walker crossing Niagara Falls. It looks deadly, insane, impossible, until you learn they practiced every step. The risk is real, but the control is total. And that's exactly why the Navy still does it this way. This one violent moment proves the ship can survive real war. No gentle float, no soft start, just raw physics and steel truth. So what does this launch really show us? What does it say about the ships we send to protect our country? The answer changes everything you thought you knew about naval strength. This launch isn't just a show, it's a promise. Every U.S. Navy ship must survive its worst moment before it ever sails to war. Before storms, before battle, it faces chaos and comes out strong. What looked like madness was actually perfect control. If a ship can't survive its own birth, it shouldn't guard our shores. Precision doesn't always look calm. Sometimes it looks like a 3,500-ton crash. True engineering isn't avoiding danger. It's taming it with math and steel. When the ship rights itself, that's not just physics. It's human genius winning. So yes, the world thought it saw a carrier launch. In spirit, they were right, because this is Navy power at its boldest. Next time you see chaos, ask, is this out of control, or is it precision wearing a mask? The warship floats calm now, ready for duty. The chaos is over, but the proof stays. What the world called crazy, the Navy calls ready. You just saw one of the most dramatic launches ever. Not reckless, but perfectly calculated. Not lucky, but built to survive on purpose. If this story left you breathless, share it with someone who loves engineering, Navy power, or impossible moments that work. Subscribe, because chaos often hides genius, and we're just getting started. Drop a comment. Did you think it would capsize? Or did you trust the engineers from the start? This launch isn't just a moment, it's a debate.